2022. And then the demands that have followed, because the total loss they've declared is over 60 billion. And the feeling is that no governor should suffer a loss of 60.8 billion and still have the right to sit at the central bank. The governor said the loss was not caused by me. The loss was not intentionally caused. The loss was necessary. In fact, I had to do that for government in order for the country to survive. From everything you've heard, is the governor's position tenable?
Well, the strange thing about leaders in Africa is that they see resignation as punishment in many cases. But resignation, in some cases, are supposed to solve one problem or the other, and also demonstrate to people that the person is also feeling what the other people are feeling. But when it comes to most of our leaders, they don't want to resign. Ken Ofori-Atta is still hanging on. Then Addison has come, and there are many, many people by now who should be resigning and also be investigated. Because when you resign, it shouldn't be the end of it. So I think Addison should be thoroughly investigated and then made to answer certain questions he didn't answer in his statement. Because if you look at the conduct of Bank of Ghana, it doesn't look as if the board was even working.
Ghana's gold.
The board was not exercising the kind of oversight that is needed, because these are economists that they put in the board, and they should have basic understanding of economics and what will happen to the economy if you take certain actions. Number one, it looks like their action was Bank of Ghana was trying to save the situation, but they didn't look at the negative effect of that. Because in managing banking system, what you need to always do is to be prudent and always look into the future. If I take this action, what will happen? So assuming the condition or the situation that made him to kind of spend so much to build the government, if it happened today, how is he going to do it? So all this should be planned, and the bank should be prudent enough to plan how to deal with uncertainties that actually occasioned. So I think the governor is supposed to go. And under normal circumstances, I don't think it was a good idea to insulate the governor of Bank of Ghana. The idea was to make him independent so that the executive won't interfere and keep borrowing. But it looks like the governors, especially Addison, is not also complying with the law that established their office. So it's rather becoming a problem, because if someone could fire him, he should be fired.
And that's the difficulty, because the suggestion is that in the case of the finance minister where he could have been fired, he was not fired because there was an agreement within government that was the way to go. With the case of Governor Addison too, there's a feeling that this was done at the behest of the executive. That's why I was even coming to your suggestion of being thoroughly investigated by who and who can act against him.
Yeah, so sometimes the laws may say that Parliament didn't take time to craft the law very well, because the attitude of Addison is something any governor can do, because the executive usually appoints them, and they appoint their favorite, and they control whatever they are doing. So if you just give someone that blanket immunity and make sure that their position is say that they cannot be fired, it becomes a problem at some point. But there has to be a way to do it. And that should be available to the people representatives. Parliament should be able to get him out.
Radio Gold.
And you can see that most of the times he just ignored Parliament. There are sections of the law that said in order to break that 5% ceiling, he needs to inform the Minister of Finance and also Parliament. But in this case, he basically informed the Minister of Finance and ignored Parliament. And Parliament is the representative of the people. And if he had done that, at least it would have brought the people on board. Now the people are agitated because all that is happening now is news to the people. There should be the people involvement in what is going on. The country is in crisis, and I think many people underestimated the magnitude of it. And Bank of Ghana's story is now telling us exactly what was going on and what is still going on, because we have depleted every sort. We can't borrow, and now Bank of Ghana cannot bail the government out. So if our condition worsen, where do we go? Because in financial management, you need to always consider the outlook. What is going on? How can we fix future problems? Our currency is now strong enough for us to keep printing money. And what they never thought about was that they could have just cut down expenditure. You see, because you're dealing with fiscal crisis, and budget deficit is very common, especially in developing countries. But coming in with that amount of money that he said he bailed the government with, definitely was not going to be free. It would create a lot of problems. Now, the Bank of Ghana has suffered one of the huge losses. Investor confidence is going to dwindle, and many, even local players in the banking industry, will begin to have some doubts about the sanity of the whole banking system, because the regulator itself is not so sanitized. So there are a lot of consequences that has happened and will happen that were never considered in making the kind of reckless decisions. And some of the gaps he left in his statement included why they make so much expenditures like that. If you look at the amount they spend on maintenance, banking supervision, so much, and he never touched those. And it's of public interest because it's taxpayers' money that have been used to, make those useless expenditures. And it's high time the Ghanaians begin to, especially journalists, look at most other organizations. It seems there are a lot of them, and we are yet to discover what's going on within those organizations.
So, you also feel he should have addressed the expenditures they made in a year alone?
You see, that has been the mantra from Ghanaians, from experts, from everybody. Cut down expenditure. And then if you don't have enough money, why keep borrowing? You can't borrow at some point, but you keep expenditure the way it is. There are a lot of leakages in the system. And if you look at the Bank of Ghana, I believe it's overstaffed. They are doing everything to the extreme, because when the party comes to power, everybody wants to go there. Professor Mills ever said when he became president, he was so disappointed in some of his friends because he will appoint them to library board and they will never show up again because everybody wants to go to Bank of Ghana.
Ghana's gold.
Why do they want to go there? Because Bank of Ghana today, the board members are taking about $8,000 every month sitting allowance. That's so huge. They basically take more than the president. And what are they doing that other people cannot do? You look at the number is so huge. the whole of United States with controlling trillions of dollars. There are only six uh, board of directors of the Fed. There are very few. And these are very experienced people who are able to make tough decisions. But in our case, it is used as a reward. So people go there basically to goof about and get paid. Other than that, the board should be the one we should even hold more accountable, because they were watching the governor. They assented to everything he was doing. And it's unconscionable.
So to you, because the call is on the governor and his deputies, you are now bringing in the board that they should also follow.
Yes, in corporate governance, board is supposed to be the most powerful, and the board is put there as decision makers. So they are the chief decision makers, and they should be the ones making decisions. And once the bank governor doesn't consult them on some of these issues to get their opinion or get their approval, he shouldn't be able to, implement certain things. So the board is more guiltier for me, because they are supposed to be putting the brakes on him.
Ghana's gold.
And it looks like for a long time, the finance minister colluded with him to make some decisions that will really impact the country significantly, because the 60 billion hole, I don't know how that hole can be easily covered. It's going to be a long time for us to put the bank back to sanity, and it's going to affect a lot of businesses, economy, investors coming into the country. And this borrowing idea actually should be looked at seriously. If we look at some countries, the level of borrowing is very low, but they are still able to run the country and improve the economy. And we did that in the past. If you look at our champions government, they never took a peso, but they improved quality of life for people, investing in agriculture, investing in so many things, education, and all that, so that you can create a different generation and develop the country along that line. But the expenditure is too huge. Ghana government is spending so much, say that it's very difficult to really maintain sound economy. Especially our the fiscal side of our economic management, because budget is always in deficits, and they always find the easier way to get the deficit dealt with.
For you, because when you listen to the governor, it seems he keeps telling the average Ghanaian who will listen to the governor will say, "Oh, he said there's no problem." They are shouting for no reason, because that's the kind of demeanor he walks out with and speaks whenever he addresses a press conference, that this will not affect the operations of the bank. Any bank which loses that kind of money is going under automatically. But I said, no, I'm not a commercial bank. Don't look at it that way. And so he's basically saying there's nothing wrong. Chill. You are making too much noise. Leave it. Well, how serious is what has happened, the loss? How big a deal it is for the average Ghanaian?
Now, Addison is speaking as if other people don't know how the central bank works. See, when you make that huge loss and think it's fine, because you think that the bank is still capable of performing other functions. Most of the functions the bank perform has to do with money, because every bank is hurting. The DDEP program has weakened the capacity of most of the local banks to do what they've been doing in the economy and what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, providing support for businesses and for the private sector to grow. And now that the Bank of Ghana has broke, many things can happen. Certain things have not even happened because the government is still in crisis. Not that they bail out the government and their bailout is going to keep the government, the economy sound, or the problems that they try to solve won't just go away. We still have a lot to deal with. And now they have depleted the resource. They are now in the negative position, which is not good. So investor confidence is also going to be affected. And it has demonstrated to Ghanaians that, the mismanagement is more than what we thought it was. Because the Bank of Ghana was made independent to stand by and come in and provide solutions. Now they are the ones causing problems. And in the midst of it, you can see what they did. They also went on the spending rampage, building new headquarters. At the time, many banks are trying to invest in technology, to work from home, to do things electronically. And now they are building brick and mortar with this huge amount of resources. So it's so reckless in management, and I side with Parliament's attitude because they're going to put pressure on the governor to just not to resign. For me, they should go ahead and also look at the laws, look at our compliance laws, the compliance part of the law, so that the Bank of Ghana cannot make certain decisions without letting other people get involved, like Parliament or any other institution that will represent the people. So, because we need to know, as people, we need to know what the bank is doing. And if they had informed Parliament, Parliament would have asked certain questions and also bring in more ideas to enrich that decision.
Well, having said that, you said something earlier about the fact that in Africa we see resignation as punishment. How is resignation not punishment? Is the fact that you are accepting you are accepting responsibility, two, you are losing your job. That is punishment, is it not?
The caliber of people they bring is the reason. Sometimes it's seen as a job. If you look at America here, the Treasury Secretary is usually from the private banking sector. Some CEO, someone like a Goldman Sachs CEO was brought in to be the Treasury Secretary. And this is a man whose bonus alone is $57 million every year. And they made him a secretary, and he's going to take home only $156,000. So such a person, the country needs him. Not that he needs the country, because he left billions and then came in to serve. And that is the kind of arrangement we should also have. But if you put someone in position, sometimes they put someone who is struggling to build their first house. So they don't want to go anywhere. It's about the resources, the security that comes with the job. So we should be able to appoint people who can stand, even if they are not in government, and they see it as service and not basically a job. So the Bank of Ghana will not go anywhere. Some African leaders also think that once he gets out, a lot of other roads will be uncovered. So they want more time to cover their tracks. So in the case of Addison, he has been there for a long time, almost 7 years. So that's a long time. And when he go now, I don't think it will affect him personally in any way. And I'm so surprised that he doesn't want to buy into that idea. He should be the one to resign before people call on him to do so. Because you can't cause these huge losses, mismanage a bank that was so, solvent, and you run it into the ditch and feel that you should still be the head of it in the ditch. So I think it's a very strange behavior, and we must begin to get people also into government who love this country. Because when you love Ghana, at some point you just pause and think about it, than thinking so much about yourself. So it's a matter of what the best, our attitude is fueled by the caliber of people who they appoint to certain positions. If the person is a self-made man, a self-made woman, they may not be too glued to the position as it is now.
Doc, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for making time.
You're welcome, brother.
Dr. Justice Salifo, Organization Management Expert, speaking to us on the matter of the Bank of Ghana. We are counting down to the 21 days. So you